Welcome back to another episode of the Life'sPlaybook podcast. This is episode 3 of my show. As always, if you didn't catch the first 2 episodes, they are still available on the Spotify page and the YouTube page. I encourage you to check out those episodes. You don't want to miss out what I had to say in both of those episodes. With that being said, it's bowl season in the college football world. In case you have been locked into the college football playoffs, on top of that, it is bowl season in the college football playoff world. And I know I haven't been talking about too many bowl games that have been going on these past couple weeks, but that's because I didn't really think that most of those bowl games were of any real significance. They weren't really exciting, worth talking about, until yesterday. Yesterday, there were a total of 7 bowl games yesterday, some more entertaining than others. There were 2 bowl games in particular, though, that, in my opinion, were the most exciting of the day. And that was number 18 Iowa State taking on number 15 Miami in the Pop-Tart Bowl, and number 17 BYU taking on number 23 Colorado in the Valero Alamo Bowl. I'll talk to about those 2 bowl games and the significance that they each hold for Cam Ward, Sheduer Sanders, and Travis Hunter, as all 3 of those players are looking to enter the 2025 NFL Draft. That being said, let's get into it. Also, there were some NFL games. There were a total of 3 NFL games that went down yesterday. I'll break down those games as well and their significance to the teams that won. With that being said, let's get into it. Starting with the first bowl game, which I thought was one of the more exciting games. It kind of got a little overshadowed from the beatdown that BYU gave Colorado yesterday in the Valero Alamo Bowl. I'll go over that game after I go over this one. But this one kind of got overshadowed, in my opinion. It was very entertaining, very high-scoring game. Iowa State ends up winning this game by 1 point, 42-41. Cam Ward, again, a player that's declared for the NFL Draft. He didn't play that bad. He threw for a total of 190 yards, 3 touchdowns to put Miami up at the half. And then out of halftime, he sat the rest of the game so as to not get him hurt and to keep his draft stock higher than, say, Sheduer, which I think was a smart move. And then Emory Williams came in, and he didn't have a bad day either. He only threw for 0 touchdowns, though, 1 interception, 26 yards. Covering for Cam Ward as he sat out the rest of that game. Again, Iowa State ends up winning this game 42-41. Again, very high scoring game. The defenses on both sides were non-existent. I did not expect Iowa State to put up as much of a fight as they did against Miami, especially with how they kind of ended things off towards the end of the season. They went on a slump. Just like Miami, they also went on a slump, and they missed out on making the college football playoffs. But high-scoring game. Iowa State, as far as their quarterback, he threw for 3 touchdowns as well, threw for 270 yards with a quarterback rating of 119.55. Not a bad day for Rocco Becht, the quarterback for Iowa State. The run game was there for Miami. They ran the ball very efficiently. Mark Fletcher Jr. ran for 62 yards, 1 touchdown, and Damian Martinez ran for 179 yards for 1 touchdown for Miami. So the run game was existent, as well as the passing game. Joe Shisa Trader, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. Elijah Aroro, 64 yards, 1 touchdown. And Jacoby George, 24 yards, 1 touchdown. Defensively, nothing too exciting. The defenses for both teams didn't really show up. This game came down to the wire. When Cam Ward sat out, Iowa State, they had that clutch touchdown run to put them up. And Miami, they were driving down the field. I thought they were going to get in field goal range to put them up 44-42, but Emory Williams threw that interception at the end to seal the deal for Iowa State getting that win. But I thought that was a very entertaining bowl game. It's one of the fewer entertaining bowl games that went on these past couple of weeks. I know the Potato Bowl was also a pretty entertaining game between Fresno State and Northern Illinois. That was an entertaining one. But the Pop-Tart Bowl featuring Iowa State and Miami, that was pretty entertaining. I thought I'd share my thoughts on that one, as this game really, in terms of Cam Ward, it doesn't really have a huge impact on him. It really just elevates his draft stock and where he will be projected to fall in the 2025 NFL Draft. With that being said, moving on to the Valero Alamo Bowl, featuring number 23 Colorado and number 17 BYU. BYU absolutely destroys Colorado 36-14. Colorado scored some late garbage time touchdowns to get those 14 points. This game was really all BYU, and offensively and defensively they showed up. The numbers for 12 for 21. Completion percentage 57%. Threw for 151 yards. 0 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions, though, and a quarterback rating of 47.06. Again, the defense for BYU really stepped up, and the offense really got going. Obviously, the run game was the cream of the crop for BYU. Sione Moa ran for 25 yards, 1 touchdown. And L.J. Martin ran for 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. So the run game was existent for BYU. Colorado, as a team collectively, I saw a stat on ESPN where Colorado as a team collectively had less yards than the longest run that BYU pulled off. That longest run was 6 yards. Colorado as a team and as a whole had a total of 2 yards. Not a good day for the Buffaloes. This was Sheduer Sanders and Travis Hunter's last game. It's Colorado Buffalo before hitting the NFL draft. As far as those two performances, Sheduer completed 16 of 23 passes, had a completion percentage of about 70, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, and a QBR of 100.56. Not a terrible day, but compared to what Cam Ward did in the Pop-Tart Bowl, this might hurt Sheduer Sanders' draft stock just a little bit. There shouldn't really be too much of a change in projection as where he will fall, but got to have a better game if you're Sheduer Sanders, if you wanted to win that game. Can't throw 2 interceptions and expect to still somehow win this game, especially with how well BYU's defense played. Travis Hunter, receiving-wise, had 4 receptions, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. Travis Hunter was the 2024 Heisman Trophy winner. In my opinion, not a great game from him, especially considering the score. I think he could have done better. Savell Smalls also had a touchdown grab in there too. But upon watching this game, it did not look like Colorado was ready at all to play this game. There was no poise in Travis Hunter. There was no poise in Sheduer. The run game was not there. Defensively, there were some turnovers. There were some interceptions in there. So the defense for Colorado, you could say, stepped up. But offensively, there was just no poise. Those boys weren't ready to play a bowl game, and I understand it's a bowl game. It's not a playoff game, but this was one of the more significant bowl games. It was one of the more entertaining bowl games, one of the more significant bowl games in the Bowl Mania. And if you're a guy like Sheduer Sanders or a guy like Travis Hunter, who just declared for the NFL Draft in April, you want to make sure you put on a good showcase. You want to make sure you play a near perfect game. Like Cam Ward. He threw for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a perfect game for what it was, even despite him sitting out at the half and sitting out for the rest of the game. And despite them still losing, he still had a perfect game. Now, obviously, when you look at the numbers, it's not bad. That's about an average performance, throwing 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and having a quarterback rating of 100. That's not terrible, but you're in competition in your mind. You're in competition in the draft with guys like Cam Ward. You want to have a higher draft stock than other players that could be drafted higher than you based on how well they played in these bowl games. And if you watched both bowl games, you could argue, despite having less yards, Cam Ward had a way better game than Sheduer Sanders. But again, I don't think anything drastic is going to happen for Sheduer Sanders. And Travis Hunter is still probably going to be the number one overall pick in the draft. I don't think anything drastic is going to change much for Sheduer as far as projection and where he'll fall in the draft. Him and Cam Ward will both still be first round high picks, in my opinion. But again, it wasn't a perfect game for Colorado. Granted, it was a bowl game, so they weren't in the playoffs or none of that. But still, if you're Sheduer Sanders, you want to have a near perfect game so that you can showcase to these NFL teams who will be looking into drafting you what you can bring to the table. You want to finish off the regular season on a good note. You want to have a perfect performance for these NFL teams to look at. And you could argue that just wasn't the case, despite having a quarterback rating of 100 and going even split on touchdowns to interceptions. But nonetheless, congrats to BYU. They showed up at least. They got the job done. They won 36-14. And the Valero Alamo, they are your 2024 Valero Alamo Bowl champions. And Iowa State is your 2024 Pop-Tart Bowl champions. So congratulations to those two teams for ending the seasons on good notes. There were some NFL games that went on yesterday. There were 3 NFL games yesterday. The Chargers trounced the Patriots. Denver ends up losing to Cincinnati, as I predicted. And the Cardinals end up losing to the Rams. So, let's get into those games. I didn't really watch the many NFL games because, again, I was too busy personally watching Iowa State and Miami in the Pop-Tart Bowl and BYU taking on Colorado. But I saw the end of the Denver-Cincinnati game, and that game ended in overtime. And it was close towards the end of overtime. I thought there might be a second overtime because both teams were sort of struggling to put the ball in the end zone. And Cade York missed a clutch field goal in overtime. But luckily, the defense for the Bengals stepped up and gave them another shot in overtime to capitalize and put the ball in the end zone, which eventually they did. T. Higgins went off that game. He had 110 yards and 3 touchdowns that game, really leading the way for the Bengals and keeping the door open for the Bengals' playoff hopes. Again, this was one of the more major playoff shifting games in my eyes. The Bengals needed to win this game, and I picked the Bengals to win this game, and they did. They got the job done. Their playoff hopes are more open than ever. They haven't clinched with that win. They still need to win out the rest of their last game, and they still need some help from other teams to make the playoffs possible for them. But beating Denver certainly helps keep that door open for their playoff hopes. And it was Denver, you blew it in the end. You sold in the end. Despite having a great defense, you sold in the end. And the last NFL game that day, the Rams beat the Cardinals 13-9. This game, again, there was some significance. If you're a Seahawks fan, that game meant everything to you and your team, because had the Rams lost that game, the Seahawks would have been in contention to compete for their division and possibly make the playoffs too on top of that. And now that the Rams got the job done against the Cardinals, obviously that's not the case anymore. They most likely will not make the playoffs nor compete for their division. So, if you're a Seahawks fan, you are in shambles right now. Complete shambles right now, because you know that your team isn't going anywhere most likely, nor competing for anything most likely. If you're a Rams fan, obviously, your playoff hopes are still alive, and you're most likely going to be NFC West division champions, and you will most likely lock up that 4th seed in the NFC playoff race, in the NFC standings. So congratulations to the Rams fans for getting the job done. That game kind of went down to the wire. The final play of that game, the Cardinals were going down to score that game, and Kyler Murray throws a near perfect pass to Trey McBride, who was having a good game. He caught a touchdown for the first time that season in what felt like forever. But he had a good game, don't get me wrong, but that pass from Kyler Murray, during that final play, if it didn't doink off his helmet, the Cardinals probably would have won that game. And they probably would have kept the Seahawks playoff hopes and division hopes alive. But it happened. It doinked off his helmet. Trey McBride couldn't catch it. It gets picked off in the end zone off that doink. And the Cardinals, again, on that final play of the drive, on that final play of the game, really, they didn't get the job done, and it gets picked off in the end zone. So, Seahawks fans, if there's anyone to be mad at, specifically, it's Trey McBride for not catching that and having that doink happen. But again, and the Chargers obviously trounced the Patriots, so there's no real need to talk about that game other than the fact that Jim Harbaugh is doing Jim Harbaugh things and reviving yet again another program, and the Chargers clinched the playoffs off that win. So congratulations, Chargers. You guys are in the playoffs. You guys are alive and well. Chargers fans, you guys are sitting pretty right now. Can't say the same about your division rivals, though. The Denver Broncos, they still have a chance. You know, it's not like they're eliminated out of the playoffs or anything off of that loss to the Bengals, but that window is now tighter than it ever was after losing that game to the Bengals. They still have a chance to get in. Obviously, if they beat the Chiefs, they can still get in the playoffs. They can still clinch with the win against the Chiefs. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. The Chiefs are just a really good football team. Granted, they're probably not going to play their starters. They're most likely going to rest. So the chances for the Broncos to win that game is a lot higher than what people would expect. But I still don't think, even with their starters resting, and with that being the last game, I still don't think the Broncos could get the job done, and I think they will finish 9-9. But again, Broncos, you still have a chance. Just beat the Chiefs, and you can still clinch. Bengals, your playoff hopes are alive and well. You still have a chance. You still need help from other teams, and you still have to win out, which again, I have no doubt that you guys that the Bengals are capable enough to win out. And with the appropriate help from other teams, they can get that job done. But you guys are Bengals fans are sitting on cloud 9 right now, knowing that their team and their playoff hopes are still alive. Again, T. Higgins was really the hero of that game, catching for 110 yards and catching 3 touchdowns. He was really the unsung hero of that game. And Joe Burrow, a unsung MVP of the season, putting up MVP numbers, did his thing. The offense did their thing. Now, moving forward for the Bengals, in my opinion, if they were to make the playoffs, I think, personally, they could make a deep run in the playoffs. I think they are more than capable of doing so. They have the weapons to do so. I think the only thing that could really hold them back from winning out or making a deep run in the playoffs if they make it is that defense. That defense is atrocious. But other than that, I mean, moving forward, Bengals fans, you guys have something to live for. You guys have another day to live for. Your team has opened the doors to make the playoffs. As far as, because there's been recent drama with, T. Higgins and whatnot, and whether he's going to leave or whatnot. As far as that goes, I don't think he should go. I mean, he had a monster game, and he is an essential piece of the Bengals offense, but only time will tell, and only success will tell. But those were the 3 NFL games that went on yesterday. Again, the Chargers trounced the Patriots 40-7. Justin Herbert looked good. The coaching looked good. The defense clearly looked good. They trounced the Patriots. The Bengals get the job done in overtime, 30-24 against the Broncos. And the Rams get the job done against the Cardinals in a close game, given the score in a close game. And the 2 the two most exciting bowl games as of right now. There's still a lot of bowl games left to be played, but the two real most exciting bowl games, again, in my opinion, were the Valero Alamo Bowl and the Pop-Tart Bowl. And as far as, again, the draft stock and draft placement and projection for all these young guys that have declared for the draft, again, Sheduer got to have a better game than that. Not terrible, but as opposed to what Cam Ward did, he put on a performance. He let the teams know that he's the pick to go with. He is the guy to draft ahead of, Sheduer. Not saying that Sheduer is a bad football player or none of that, but if you were to lose a game like the Valero Alamo Bowl in a fashion like that, you'd want to go out with at least a bang, like Miami did, putting up 41 against Iowa State. Iowa State, I'm surprised they put up 42. I thought this was going to kind of be a rout in Miami's favor, but those were again two great games, two interesting bowl games. There were a lot of bowl games in weeks prior that I know I didn't get to, but again, those bowl games in my eyes, they weren't really as entertaining as yesterday's slate of bowl games. And there were other bowl games on that day too. UConn and UNC played yesterday in the Fenway Wasabi Bowl. NC State and East Carolina played yesterday. Army played Texas Tech yesterday, and the Independence Bowl. So there were other bowl games that day. There were other bowl games, but again, the two most exciting and entertaining bowl games really were the Pop-Tart Bowl and the Valero Alamo Bowl, and those were, aside from the Valero Alamo Bowl, it was a great day for college. It was a good day for college football. It was a good day for bowl season, and it was a exciting day in the NFL world as well. If you got a chance to watch those games, just to keep you guys updated on in case you have forgotten, the quarterfinals for the college football playoffs start this week. Starting Tuesday, Boise State takes on Penn State on New Year's Eve. Again, I personally still got Boise State coming out of that one. I think Ashton Jenny has a great game, and off of what just happened with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders in the Valero Alamo Bowl, I think Ashton Jeanty shows us why he should have won the Heisman and why he is the true Heisman Trophy winner in many of our eyes. So I think Boise State, especially because they clearly had to have been watching that game. I know Ashton Jeanty had to have been watching that bowl game. So he's got, in my opinion, he's going to be coming into that game with a little bit of drive, a little bit of an incentive, some motivation to put on a show-stopping performance and to show the committee, show the fans that he was this year's Heisman Trophy winner, and he should have won that award. So I still got Boise State coming out of that one against Penn State. And then Wednesday, following up the quarterfinals, again, Notre Dame taking on Georgia, Ohio State taking on Oregon, and Texas taking on Arizona State. In case you guys have forgotten, quarterfinals are this week. I still have Texas blowing out Arizona State. Ohio State, I think they can get the job done this time. I think we get our get back against Oregon. And Georgia, despite Carson Beck not playing for the rest of the playoffs and undergoing surgery and declaring for the NFL draft, despite not having him anymore, I still think Georgia can get the job done against Notre Dame because they still have a very good defense. It's Kirby Smart we're talking about. He's been in these situations many times before. He's a great coach. I think he can coach this team no matter who's at the quarterback helm. I think he can still coach this team to dominate and get the job done. So I still think I got Georgia blowing by Notre Dame. It will be a closer game, despite Carson Beck not being available that night, but I still got Georgia coming out of that one. So, with that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe under this video. Again, the other 2 episodes are out. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch those episodes, I encourage you to do so and leave a like under those videos. You don't want to miss out on what I had to say in those episodes. With that being said, I will catch you guys Thursday for episode 4 of the Life's Playbook podcast. Until then, stay tuned, and the game never ends here at the Life's Playbook podcast. I'll catch you guys Thursday. Don't forget to watch. If you're a huge football guy, there's been a lot of great football these past couple weeks, and there's a lot more football to be watched. Until next time, peace out.